Hello and welcome to Differential Discussions. I'm Melissa.
And I'm Dave.
And today we're going to be starting a new series called the That Diff series, where we're going to look at the CBC, the scattergrams, and the differential to try to simulate what it would be like for us at the bench. And we have a guest with us today. So Kyle, thank you. Welcome.
So excited to be here. It's awesome to see some friends from the north as you're dealing with the cold. I figured my background ties into that weather, although I think it's a little colder and a little snowier right now where you're at as we film here in February.
Just a little bit. All right, well, let me pull up the CBC and the scattergrams for you so that we can start with that.
Ooh.
All right, so the information that we're given is that it's a 45-year-old male. Here's the CBC and the automated differential. And then you have your scattergrams and the histograms.
So, I mean, I think first I go to like I usually stay away from the diff and just start looking at the indices, and like white cell count's a little high, but normal. H&H looks decent. No red cell indices are really hitting me in the face. Platelets look normal.
I kind of did the same thing there, Dave, where I quickly just scanned the CBC results and nothing's jumping out. But as I went down, that automated lymphocytosis kind of screamed at me. I was like, whoa,
there we go.
What's going on there?
Yep. And so definitely higher than what would be normal for that lymph diff. And then my eyes kind of go to the diff scattergram, right? So the one thing I want to see here is how well separated those groups are, right? And that diff scattergram looks pretty normal to me. So I don't think there's anything weird being classified as a lymph necessarily. Hard to say until you look at the diff, I guess. But
yeah, I would agree with that. It looks like everything's kind of falling into the gates you would expect on these two flow printouts for the differential portion. I also just want to dive down into the red cell section, since that RDW, the histogram for the red cell, since the RDW is normal but kind of getting up there, I wanted to make sure that there's no kind of blips on either end of that histogram to assure that there may be no like emerging microcytosis or macrocytosis or reticulocytosis that could be kind of designated by extra macrocytic cells there. So this is all kind of looking what I would think.
Nothing that would get me out of bed in the morning, so to speak, right? Like,
yeah, like I'd see this on the bench and just go, okay, let's bang this one out.
Yep. Tap, 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 tap. Yep. Yeah, and good point on the red cells too, right? Because if there was a microcytosis or a macrocytosis or whatever, we might see like a little bit of a shoulder, right, or a lean to that bell curve. But it looks
that word for it,
nice and pretty.
I like that word for it, a shoulder. I never thought how to use it.
Yeah. And WPC baso channel, whatever, right? Platelet channel, whatever. Maybe that has like a slight lean to it, but how often do you have a couple of little platelet clumps? It's insignificant, I think, probably.
Yeah.
You guys ready for the diff?
Bring it on.
All right.
All right, so we're at a low power.
Yep.
And it's a little blurry on my end.
Just a little fuzzy.
And then maybe the feather.
Yeah.
Kyle, what do you think? Maybe we'll look at the feather a little.
Yeah, let's go check the feather to make sure we don't see. That's always great especially with the lymphocytosis, even though everything was looking good. Let's confirm that we're not seeing any like larger cells that could be indicative of a blast that tend to go to the peripheries or the feather. And also because you noted that the platelet, it kind of blipped towards the end, make sure we have no major platelet clumps going on.
Yep. So this is kind of neat too. We're operating without like operator alerts or anything, right? So we're really kind of looking at
Yeah,
the raw
yeah.
data.
I feel like this is like real, like hardcore stuff. I don't even get the instrument flags right now. Like, I don't
You
get to
can
choose. I
you
have to know
can
my stuff.
you can thank Dave. I said, "Do you want the flags?" And he said no.
I said hematology hard mode, like this is
You know what, Dave? I'm gonna shake my fist in fury at you. Talk about rude, sir. Talk about rude. I'm not seeing anything that like freaks me out. Like I'm not seeing any cells that have lost contact inhibition, no clumps of cells. I'm not seeing anything that's huge. I'm just seeing from the 30,000 foot perspective that we're at right now. I'm kind of at the moment seeing what I'd expect based on that differential on the automated instrument.
I tend to agree with you completely. Yep, there's nothing jumping out at me. And
not a lot of zombies either. I'm noticing
right.
one here. Yeah, this is a
So
nice
like
scenario.
common with lymphocytosis, right? You might see some smudge cells kind of develop, and we might have to deal with that accordingly, depending on the place we're working at.
Come on, albumin prep.
Yeah. All right, so maybe we can come down in magnification a bit. Or up, I guess. I don't know how. Yeah. I always say like that, like you said, 30,000 feet, right? So I always think of low power as high.
Yeah,
Power
we're
as
making our
low.
initial descent now. We're making that initial approach to the airport.
Love that.
Ooh, so it looks like there's a
Ooh,
smudgy there.
yeah, a little smudgy.
And
That
then
lymphocyte, ooh, up in the corner there, that's hugging those red cells just a bit. But I since I worked at a children's hospital, I tend to be very conservative in what I call reactive lymphocytes, because especially with kids, you don't want to overcall it, but every place is a little different. I wouldn't
doesn't
call that
every kid, right? Like
yeah.
every kid's walking around with like the eating
Yeah,
dirt
yeah.
and
Those lymphocytes are just like we all are when we're young. They're just radical and wanting to sprawl out and be themselves. That's all they are.
They want to touch everything.
Yeah.
Every red cell.
Yes. Says the mom of the infant. Absolutely.
All right, so we'll scan around a little. Looks like a
There's
mono. Yeah. So I am seeing larger-ish lymphs. That one looks like it's kind of like touching another mono, perhaps.
Yeah, it's hard to tell from here, but it looks more the chromatin from this angle's looking a little more fluffy.
Okay. So maybe we can pick one of the larger lymphoid looking cells and kind of go down to oil. And we're gonna do like a maybe not necessarily count a 100 cell diff, but maybe when we feel satisfied. Yeah, sure. Yeah, let's look at this fellow. And maybe when we feel satisfied, we can make a more. Yep.
Is that good for light, Dave?
Yeah, I think it looks good on my end. Kyle, looks good. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, it looks really good.
So a big lymph. He's kind of a little spready. I see some of the blue is like a deeper tones and hues, and then some lighter elsewhere. But like you were saying, I wouldn't go crazy with reactive lymphs.
I wouldn't call this personally. I would need to see more, but I wouldn't say this is in a reactive process. This looks like a normal larger lymph to me. It almost, from my perspective, it looks like the red cells have pushed into that lymph versus in a reactive picture, it looks more like the lymph is pushing into the red cell. So of course we're going to see some more basophilic scalloping as those red cells kind of push in, but it's not the basophilic appearance I'd expect with reactivity. So I would just be clicking normal lymph for now. I might have to rethink that the more we do this.
That's probably true. Yeah, that's probably true for me too. I think I'm trying to be too sensitive.
I will say I'm starting to look at the red cells and platelets too, and I'm liking what I'm seeing so far on the platelets. They look to be the right size. They're nice and granulated, approximately in the right number. The red cells, I'm seeing pretty good size and shape. So normocytic, normochromic in one field. Can't make a final call yet, but I'm already starting to put some pieces in my head together on what this picture could be.
And I tend to agree with you completely. Red cell platelet morphology, so far so good. See if that holds true.
Can you focus a little bit sharper, Melissa?
Is that better?
Not really. Other way, just a little bit. Oh, overshot it. Because I'm starting to think this one.
Still a little on the blurry side. Oh.
Yeah.
Is it still blurry?
Yeah.
Is it still blurry?
I think it got worse.
It got worse?
Yeah.
Because this is full in focus for me.
That's about, that might be as sharp as we can
Yeah.
get with the compression and everything, but
to me, this is looking more reactive now.
Yeah.
Like to me, like if you look at the
Sorry, that was hit the stage.
karate chop in the microscope.
If you look at the top right of that lymph, that's where I'm starting to see like the cytoplasm stretch out, like it's the one bumping into the red cell versus the other way. Yeah, that side too looks like that lymphocyte is, it's such a weird distinction. And I still to this day don't understand how my brain perceives it. But to me, that looks like that lymph is pushing into versus being pushed into.
I would agree that pseudopod that's up top there is definitely much more of you know, the Ricci kind of yeah. And the nucleus too.
That? Yeah, it is more spready. Oh, sorry, Dave.
Just a little more stretched, right? Like you kind of can feel the forces on the nucleus a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, Melissa, it's kind of hard to tell, but there's a red cell to the right of this that has a little purple either artifact or
this one
inclusion. I can't tell. I would need to be at the scope focusing in and out because I am sitting.
One?
Yeah, it's that one. I'm kind of sitting there going, is that just a platelet? Is it an artifact?
It's artifact.
It's just junk. Okay, good. All right, cool. Because I mean, it's hard to tell without focusing, but I see that and I go, oh, got to make sure that's not a Howl Jolly body or anything like that.
No, that's artifact.
So, because that's got that Cindy Crawford mole type of appearance. Or beauty mark. It's a beauty mark. So.
All right, so did you guys decide if this is reactive or normal?
I may call this reactive.
I'm just gonna call this one reactive. This one's hitting that mark for me.
Okay.
We got our neutrophil.
Hey there, segmented neutrophil. How you doing? Oh, look at these gorgeous monos.
Yep, beautiful. And you know, this is tricky for a student too. So usually when I instruct with like when we're going over like reactive lymphs versus monos, or just sometimes monos and lymphs generally, one of the things I like to talk about is the darkness of the cytoplasm as it touches. And then, you know, and I tell them, you know, it doesn't work all the time, right? Sometimes monos still do that. And, you know, always fall back to the chromatin pattern. And I think that's what really tells the story and confirms these are great monos.
The other thing for me in this is the cytoplasm's texture. And I'm sure both of you at different times have heard these words come out of my mouth. I know that ground glass is the term used to describe I've never seen ground glass in my life. It doesn't resonate with me. Yeah, but you can tell, unlike the lymphocytes that we saw, even the reactive one, they were kind of empty. They didn't really have any texture to them. They were just there, bags of fluid, proteins, organelles, and all that fun stuff. This, you can tell there's grit to it. You can tell there's some granules to it. It's a very fine granulation. Like if you were to scoop in, it would be beautiful sand on the beach, on the Gulf of Mexico and Florida, not making the two of you jealous as it's cold up there at all. But to me, that's also another telling feature beyond just the chromatin pattern on these two.
Agreed. So a couple monos.
These look like resting lymphs, but they look annoyed.
Yeah, the bottom one especially, no? The one in the center of the field.
Yeah, I also don't like the blebs on the one at the top.
I know.
You can tell there's some type of immune, like the more I'm seeing this picture, you can tell there's immune stimulation going on, which matches the picture we were already seeing with the CBC and the automated differential. I believe the patient was a 45-year-old male. So to me, I'm already starting to think like, okay, immune stimulation, reactive-ish, not all reactive lymphs, but there's some reactive process. This is starting to look viral to me.
Yeah.
Like I'm starting to see a viral picture emerge. And so everything's correlating, which ultimately it's the physician's role to make that diagnosis, but I need to be able to like make sure this makes sense if I'm ever going to report this out, because if I report out junk, they're not going to have good results. It's on me to do that.
Right. I always like to think of the differential and the related, red cell morph, platelet morph, if relevant. That's like telling a narrative, a story, right? And yeah, you want that consistency and that clinical picture to hit home. Yeah,
absolutely.
So yeah, we can keep looking a little bit, see if anything else kind of. Yeah.
I'd call that it's right on the border. Again, because I tend to be conservative, I'd probably call it a resting lymph.
Yep, same.
But you can tell like it's almost like me after an hour after like 4 cups of coffee. Like you can tell I'm about to explode. Like the cell's about to do something, but it's not there yet.
Too funny.
Yeah, and I just want to point out this one actually has some granules in its cytoplasm.
Yes, it does.
Yep.
Over here.
Which they tend to be a little larger, are granular lymphs, right? Yeah.
Those azurophilic granules.
Beautiful.
I always love that word. I don't know why.
Me too. I don't know why either. I think it's just so unusual to see.
It sounds sciencey. Like I feel like a true scientist saying azurophilic.
Neutrophils.
Yeah, neutrophil. Lymph.
Yeah. I do kind of look, and it's like really nicely round. But yeah, lymph. Nothing to apply.
Oh, and this is a perfect. So I love this lymph because this is looking at it. A normal red cell size should be about the small lymph's nucleus size, and you can see with this particular cell, these red cells are about that size. Give or within reason, of course. We're not going to take out a micrometer and measure it down to the nanometer here. But again, we've now seen a number of fields. These red cells, I've been taking mental stock as we go through, and they're looking normocytic, normochromic, and the platelets are looking good as we're seeing this kind of lymphocytic, slightly reactive picture that we were seeing in the hemogram with the automated diff.
Yep, totally agree. Yeah.
Like
and all those red cell indices, like this is the expectation. Like, I had a mental image of what to expect, and here it is. So that's always assuring, right?
I sounded like I'm from a different world saying hemogram. I don't think people say hemogram.
That's the old Sysmex language, I think.
Yeah, probably. I just think I think it's seasoned language at this point. Can I just point out up at the top of this field, I think it's always great. These are teachable moments for me when I'm with my students. those are platelets. The halo around them on top of the red cell gives that away. And it's nothing that would worry me. Again, that halo is the telltale sign, and I love seeing things like that because it's just those teachable moments that makes folks that are new to diffs go, oh, that's what you mean by halo. Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And also 100% echo what you just said. Kind of looks like googly eyes too, right? Don't they have kind of like a
It does. I like that.
Oh, did you want to comment on the lymph?
Yeah, it's there.
It's yeah, I would just say lymph. You know,
Yeah,
it
lymph.
does look a little basophilic, but I need more kind of going
I
on.
think that's the stain, because even the red
Yeah.
cells are a little basophilic. So I think the stain is a little bit bluer, and that's making the lymphs just a little bit bluer. So the stain is good. I'm not
yeah.
the stain, but the red cells do look a little more basophilic. So hey, neutrophil.
Ooh.
Oh, that is a big platelet, but only seeing one of them. Meh.
So just one of them, right? But
Yeah.
you know, in the incidence level, you know, if we say one in 100, one in 500 are this size, that might account for my little, lean that might have been in the platelet histogram.
Yeah. And we're starting to get into a thin-ish area too, which is where the platelets would have a little more area to sprawl. So we'd see them stretch out and take up the space if they need to as well.
Yep.
I'll go thicker.
It's just it's not bad. It's just a little thin. I'm being picky. There's
And then you go then you just you can't even see cytoplasm.
yeah. Oh, you can see it's there. It's poking itself out,
Right
but
there, a little bit.
I've actually discovered more and more that arresting lymph like this can actually be tricky for a student, and it's not like intuitive to me because I'm so detached from how many years ago it was when I first started learning diffs. But I always tell them to look really carefully. It's like you took a pencil and just colored that little bit of blue, like right at the edge there.
yeah, no, that's a classic lymph with that beautiful little crescent of a cytoplasm there. It knows what it is, and it's going to be that. And it's gonna own that now for the rest of eternity because it's on that slide. Another lymph.
Yes, I think so far, like to this point now, we're not seeing anything like crazy special, right?
Yeah, I was just about to say, I think if I were on the bench and depending on the policies and procedures at my facility, if this was the picture I'd be seeing, I would again, I would accept the diff. I'm seeing a few reactive lymphs, but out of the ones that I've seen, it's not like 6 to 10 of them, percent of them. It's a much smaller proportion. I'm betting this is some type of viral picture that's going on in this patient, and I'm hoping they'll have a nice speedy recovery.
Same.
Can you just clarify, what do you mean by accept the diff?
Oh, so when you're on the bench and you're running the automated CBC with the automated differential, depending on the rules in your facility, you can either release the full CBC and automated diff, and it all goes to the medical record because it's a normal automated diff and nothing's there and it doesn't flag. So your medical director and your team have said, yeah, you can let that go. If, like in this case, there's something abnormal that triggers a rule that you need to look at the diff, and each facility has its own rules for this, you would hold back that differential result. It would still be in the lab information system, but you wouldn't put it into the patient's chart yet. You would then review the smear like we just did, and then you could go in, just like we said, like, hey, like this is good. We can just release those automated results now. The benefit of that is we have to always keep in mind the automated diff is counting thousands of cells versus we're only going to count 100, maybe 200 if it's a weirdo diff we want to be sure about. So the sample size difference, if we can release those automated results and just send those out and accept them when the picture is looking okay, it's always better to do so from the sample size perspective.
I agree with you. If I get 30, 40 cells deep and the percentages are just singing, they're both, everything's matching, there's nothing alarming, just back out, release. Yeah.
And that's one of the most startling things for a lot of new grads and new employees is the idea of just scanning the diff without actually counting. It freaked me out when I started working because, but wait, how do I know? What if this says 72% on the automated diff and it's really like 75%?
Yeah.
Well, knucklehead, guess what? Clinically, that's not going to make a difference. There's no clinically significant findings on that smear that disagree with what you're seeing. We need to make sure we're being patient-centered and not holding back results unnecessarily. Get this out, get it there so the provider can make a positive impact. And you, as the med lab scientist or med lab technician, make that positive impact in telling the story, like Dave said.
Yep. Yeah, there may even be cost associated with a manual differential too. So on the path of patient-centric, you could literally be saving the patient some money.
Or their insurance company, so saving premiums down the road.
True.
Awesome. Do you guys want to look more, or you feel confident in your thought?
I'm comfortable with Kyle's assessment. Yeah.
I'm rolling the dice and feeling confident on this one. I swear, if you turn around and tell me this is some malignant thing, I will be shocked.
No, this is just a lymphocytosis viral infection.
Oh goodness.
Woo!
Yeah. Ric Flair that. Woo!
I'm like my greatest fear is to like humiliate myself in front of everyone.
Thank you.
Right?
I'm like, oh
like
man.
an ALL, and it's like,
If it was an ALL and I missed it after all the ALLs I've seen in my career, first off, a 45-year-old male, weird incident time for ALL. Man. Second off, I would be so darn mad at myself. So darn mad.
This is super fun though. I really enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, I haven't been able to do heme for a few years, so this is really fun for me.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all we have for this unknown slide that we took a look at. So thanks for watching.
Thanks for your time.
Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell if you'd like notifications whenever we post a new video. And feel free to reach out to us on social media or via email with comments or suggestions about future content. Thanks.